In 2002, a tiny tech company built a device that shouldn't exist. It had apps, it had a touchscreen, it synced email, it played games, it could browse the web, it could install third-party software. It even had a slot for hardware expansions, cameras, GPS, wireless modules, years before those things were mainstream, and almost no one cared. Before the iPhone, before Android, before the modern smartphone era, there was another device that had it all. A device built by a pair of dreamers who believed the future of computing would fit into your hand. It was called the Handspring TREO, and what happened to it is one of the most painful missed futures in tech history, because what came before it was even more shocking. A forgotten IBM device from 1994, the Simon Personal Communicator, the world's first true smartphone. Both devices proved the future early, both arrived too soon, and both were erased by the timing of their own brilliance. This is the story of the smartphone Apple didn't invent, and the world wasn't ready to see. Welcome to Missed Futures, the series where we explore the ideas that arrived too early and the visionaries who paid the price for dreaming decades ahead of everyone else. Today we're going back to the moment the smartphone was born. Not in Cupertino, not in Seoul, not in Shenzhen, but in a lab where no one was watching. Long before the iPhone keynote, the idea of combining a phone with a computer was considered absurd. Phones were for calling, computers were for computing, and handheld devices? Those were toys, tiny digital calendars meant for business travelers in suits. IBM didn't see it that way. In 1992, at Comdex, they unveiled a prototype device so strange that journalists didn't even know what category to put it in. It wasn't a phone, it wasn't a PDA, it wasn't a computer, it was all three. 2 years later, they released it to the public as the IBM Simon Personal Communicator, a chunky black brick with a monochrome touchscreen and a stylus. But inside was the future. A calendar, a notepad, email, apps, touch navigation, fax, address book, and a primitive app store of downloadable software packages. Simon did almost everything modern smartphones do in 1994, but it was 18 years too early. The battery lasted an hour, mobile networks were slow, data plans were absurdly expensive, the hardware was clunky. The world simply wasn't ready to compute in its pocket. Simon failed, and the idea went dormant, but not for long. Fast forward to the late 1990s, the Palm Pilot is exploding in popularity. PDAs are everywhere, and two engineers, Jeff Hawkins and Donna Dubinsky, are quietly planning something radical. They believe the future isn't PDAs, it isn't cell phones, it's both, fused together. Hawkins sketches the idea on a napkin, a small device with a touchscreen, a QWERT keyboard, a phone antenna, apps, calendar, email, and effortless syncing. The vision is so bold, Palm refuses to fund it. So Hawkins and Dubinsky quit and start a new company, Handspring. Within months, they built a device that looks like it fell out of the future, the Handspring Visor. Not just a PDA, not just a gadget, but a module computer. You could slide in a digital camera, a GPS navigator, a Wi-Fi module, a two-way pager, even a phone module. Handspring wasn't just predicting the smartphone, they were building one piece at a time. Then came the big leap. In 2002, they unveiled the Handspring TREO, the device Jeff Hawkins had sketched years earlier. A full phone, a touchscreen device, a messaging machine, an app platform, a web-enabled mini-computer in your pocket. It had everything. The TREO combined PDA convenience, smartphone intelligence, and mobile connectivity. It had a real keyboard for fast typing, it had instant email, it had apps. You could customize it, expand it, even hack it. Reviewers raved. Tech publications called it the future of mobile computing. Engineers understood exactly what it was: the world's first practical smartphone. But timing is cruel.
The mobile networks were still slow. Carriers didn't know how to market it. Software was fragmented. Palm OS was aging, and Handspring was tiny. Too small to scale, too small to survive long-term carrier politics. Meanwhile, the giants were waking up. Nokia was building Symbian. Microsoft was building Pocket PC. BlackBerry was exploding in enterprise communication. Sony was experimenting with the Klee. Danger released the Sidekick. Motorola was still selling millions of flip phones. The future was being built everywhere, just not in one place. There was no unifying platform, no ecosystem, no app store, no standardization. Everyone had a piece of the future. No one had the whole thing. Handspring TREO was closest, but not close enough. Palm acquired Handspring. Resources shifted. Projects stalled. Competition intensified. And the smartphone future fractured into chaos. Then came January 2007. Steve Jobs walked onto a stage, held up a touch-screen slate, and told the world Apple was reinventing the phone. The crowd erupted, the industry froze, and almost no one remembered that Handspring had reinvented it 5 years earlier, or that IBM had reinvented it 12 years before that. The iPhone succeeded, not because Apple invented the smartphone, but because they timed the smartphone. Networks were faster, batteries were better, screens were sharper, software was smoother, data was cheaper, Wi-Fi was everywhere, and carriers finally understood the value of smartphones. Apple didn't beat Handspring on vision, they beat them on timing, scale, and ecosystem. The TREO became a relic, IBM's Simon became a trivia question, and the smartphone timeline was rewritten to begin in 2007. But the world didn't start there. If the TREO had arrived just a few years later, if mobile networks were ready, if Palm hadn't slowed down, if app ecosystems existed sooner, if capital flowed differently, if carriers had embraced innovation earlier, the smartphone revolution could have begun in 2002 or even 1994. Imagine 15 extra years of smartphone evolution, earlier mobile internet, earlier navigation, earlier apps, earlier social media, earlier global connectivity. The world would be unrecognizable. Instead, the pioneers were forgotten, and the companies that saw the future were crushed under the weight of their own timing. The smartphone was not born in 2007, it was revived. The seeds were planted by IBM, grown by Palm and Handspring, and perfected by Apple. The tragedy is not that these early devices failed, the tragedy is that the world didn't understand what they were. Technology didn't limit the TREO, timing did, infrastructure did, economics did, carriers did, market psychology did. The ideas were right, the moment was wrong. This was a future the world simply wasn't ready to hold. For a brief moment, between 1994 and 2002, the smartphone existed in the shadows, a complete, functional preview of the next 2 decades, ignored by everyone except the people who built it. And the irony? Those engineers were proven right, just far too late to benefit. The future was in our hands, but we didn't recognize it. This was Missed Futures, where we explore the visions that came too early and the creators who paid the price. Subscribe and join us next time. The next missed future might be the one you're holding right now.